They have been created over billions of years, and in that time have taken on bizarre and fascinating shapes. The highest peaks, bottomless chasms of gorges, and vast flat plateaus, mysterious caves and kilometer-long glaciers, the unbearingly searing sun and cruel frost in summer, the rumble of deadly snow avalanches and rock falls. The mountains are a majestic land, not hospitable and at times scarce and often inaccessible to man. What do the mountains hold inside them? Is there life where there are sheer cliffs, steep slopes, great temperature variations, and thin air? What plants grow and what animals live in places where living conditions are too harsh, cold, windy, deserted, and with little food for most of the year? And yet, in these extreme conditions, life has not stopped. The mountains are by no means lifeless, and for some they are home, although survival here is at constant risk. For those who live in the mountains, nature has a tough challenge: steep cliffs, steep slopes, poor vegetation. But for the animals that live here, the mountains are the best refuge. There are few predators here. It's hard for them to hunt on these dangerous slopes. They prefer easier prey in the valley. High up in the Rocky Mountains, above the vast forests that cover the slopes, there is plenty of room for the snow goat. No other animal is so perfectly adapted to life on the rocks. But their life is not easy. Only the toughest survive. After all, the mountain peaks are ruthless to potential inhabitants. How do these animals survive in one of the harshest places on Earth? Snow goats inhabit only the Rocky Mountains of North America, which stretch in sequence from north to south for 4,830 kilometers. The snow goat has a white, long, and very thick coat. The lush coat is essential for surviving during the winter months. It consists of 2 layers, a thick undercoat and a thick hollow hair on top. This coat protects the goats in temperatures as low as -45 degrees and hurricane winds. But as soon as the snow begins to melt, they shed this coat, leaving scraps of wool on rocks and sparse trees, and change it for a light summer coat. In the past, when snow goats were plentiful, the Indians gathered the long wool from the rocks and spun it into yarn, which was very valuable. In the mountains, where the air is thin, the sun is relentless, and for the snow goat can become just as dangerous as the brutal cold. They are at risk of heat stroke. They don't sweat, and to cool down, they breathe deeply, like dogs. They also hide in the shade when the sun is scorching. Snow goats live above the upper forest edge most of the year, are sedentary, and often stay in the same place for months at a time. The two sexes do not cross paths too often. Males either live alone or join small groups of males. Females, together with their young, form small groups consisting of the main goat, nurse goats, and baby goats. Females and males cross paths mainly during mating games. In snow goats, the female is above the male on the hierarchical ladder, and during rutting, the male runs after the female on half-bent legs and with his tongue stuck out, in a posture that expresses humility and submission. He then turns to her with a ritual kick on the run. If the male does not behave as the female desires, she strikes him with her horns under the ribs. Possessing an incredible climbing ability, snow goats walk on steep cliffs with hardly perceptible ledges and cornices. It's quite baffling how such large animals can stay up there. Their maximum steadiness and incredible agility allows snow goats to jump as far as 3 of their body lengths and cling to ledges as wide as a human finger. So how do they do it? The secret lies in the hooves. The snow goat's large, widely extending hooves allow them to cling to tiny ledges. The sole consists of a flexible pad with a rough surface that can bend and cling to any unevenness. The pad is also surrounded by a layer of hard keratin to help support the weight of the body on one foot. Powerful shoulder muscles help goats pull themselves up and remain stable. During the rutting season, the males try to find out who's stronger when they meet. They do so by standing sideways to each other, heads apart, arching their legs, arching their backs, and puffing up their hair, demonstrating their power. If this demonstration does not lead to an amicable solution, the males circle around each other, maintaining their mutual position, and tend to strike their hind legs or flanks with their horns. Most of the time, these fights end bloodlessly, but sometimes goats do inflict severe or even fatal wounds on one another. The goat is indiscriminate when it comes to food. It eats whatever it can find. After all, during the summer, it needs to stockpile the supplies it needs to survive the following winter. The higher up into the mountains, the less vegetation there is. If the winter is too long or the snow cover is so thick that the animals can't reach the vegetation underneath, even a thick layer of fat may not be enough for the goats to survive. Often, goats are on the brink each spring. Over the winter, their fat reserves are depleted, and the danger of starvation is more than real. Goats move slowly, lazily, and very rarely jump. If they do, they usually jump down, sometimes 6 to 7 meters, onto a barely visible ledge. If the area of the ledge they jump on is too small, they do not try to dwell on it, but simply push off and jump to the next one, sometimes turning almost 180 degrees in the air. In case of danger, snow goats do not rush off like other ibexes, but slowly walk away. They have almost no enemies. Only pumas in summer occasionally dare to attack goats, but they successfully defend themselves from the puma with their sharp horns. There is a puma lurking in the rocks. From its hiding place, it follows a snow goat that is diligently nibbling on the grass. It's a big prey, weighing more than the cougar itself. Mountain lions are brave enough animals and will usually attack prey that is much larger than they are. To prey, the cougar must operate stealthily, and its prey needs to be alert at all times to stay alive. The snow goat gets carried away and seems to let its guard down. The cougar tries to sneak up on its prey unnoticed as close as possible. The cat's sudden leap nearly knocks it over. This young, inexperienced mountain lion has miscalculated its strength and fails to bring down the goat. The large, muscular body on short, strong legs was beyond its strength. The animal tries to get at him with its dagger-like horns. The puma has to fight off the furious goat with its paws. After a brief skirmish, the young cat is forced to flee and left without dinner for now. Pumas usually hunt at night or in the dark hours of dawn and dusk, while during the day they sleep off. In the dark, it's easier for them to sneak up on their prey, but hunger has probably driven them to hunt during the day as well. Every hunt is a risky game, and it does not always yield the desired result. The puma is a mysterious cat that people rarely see. Another name for this strong, graceful animal is cougar or wildcat. Pumas are most densely inhabited in North America in the western part, mainly in the Rocky Mountains. They can climb very high into the mountains and are found at altitudes of over 4,000 meters. Heavily rugged terrain is not a hindrance for these animals. On the contrary, they easily overcome obstacles, and it is even easier for them to hunt. Snow goats and bighorn sheep are the main prey of the cougars in the mountains of North America. This is a big prey and often weighs more than the cougar, so it lasts long, and one successful hunt allows not worrying about food for some time. Puma's build is massive but flexible. Its strong, slender paws are equipped with sharp, flexible claws that enable it to hold its prey and climb trees and rocks. Its jaw and teeth are very strong, allowing it to break bones. But even this skillful hunter does not easily survive in the harsh conditions of the highlands. No other animal gives the mountains as much charm as the chamois. Beautiful, fast-flying rock dwellers, they roam in small herds in the most secluded places, enlivening the highest mountain ridges. This cloven-hoofed mammal, a member of the goat subfamily of the mongrel family, is common in Europe and Asia Minor. It is also called the black goat. Its name in Latin means rock goat. That's right, the chamois' habitat is mostly on rocky steeps. In search of the best places, they can climb to a height of more than 3 kilometers. They're cheerful, beautiful, and very intelligent animals. Particularly good are their large, black, strongly convex, and glistening eyes. Their every movement reveals extraordinary muscular strength, agility, liveliness, and grace. They jump from one rock to another across deep ravines, are kept in balance on slopes by such irregularities which are hardly visible to the eye, are pushed with their hind legs, and always reach their intended ledge with perfect precision. In order to escape from pursuit, they can jump up to 6 meters in length and jump over obstacles up to 2 meters high. Birds of prey, golden eagles, pose a great threat to chamois. Flying high in the sky over open areas of the mountains, the golden eagle searches for prey. Due to its ability to use warm air currents, it can soar for hours at a height of over 700 meters looking for prey. This large bird of prey is present in the highest and most inaccessible areas of the mountains in Europe and North America. Golden eagles are considered skilled hunters. They are naturally endowed with powerful limbs and sharp, long claws that won't stand a chance against anything they hit. Their strong beak allows them to strike ruthless blows at their prey. Several chamois linger on the mountainside. As the fastest and most nimble bird of prey, the golden eagle attacks animals larger and heavier than itself. The bird pierces its skin and plunges huge claws into the chamois. The goat tries to throw off the predator. It rushes down the slope, tumbling and rolling on the rocks. Being extremely hardy and endowed with remarkably supple plumage, the golden eagle is able to withstand fierce resistance. Here they fall again and hit the rocks. Despite the vicissitudes of the struggle, the prey is still in the bird's powerful clutches. Once attacked by such a skilled hunter, the prey has no chance of escape. The eagle can be seen trying to take off, but the prey is too heavy. Another fall onto the rocks, and only now does the raptor release its prey from its claws. The ungulate man manages to fight back. This time, luck is not on the golden eagle's side, and the hunt was dangerous for him. The shape of the horns is peculiar to the eagle, upright, hooked backwards and downwards at the ends. The tops of the very hard horns are thin and sharp. They are an excellent weapon with which she defends herself against eagles and kites. In an irritated condition, it can easily cut the belly of a victim. With their horns and strong hooves, chamois do not fight for their lives but flee. Their only chance of survival is to rely on their legs. The chamois' feet are much thicker than those of the goat. They can spread their hooves widely, especially the front ones with convex rims, which helps them in crossing ice and over narrow mountain ledges. The golden eagle is a very aggressive bird. It often chooses a prey much larger than itself. In the mountains, it can kill not only with its claws, but also by simply dropping it from a high cliff. Its sharp eyesight allows it to recognize its prey from a great height. Having captured a target on the ground, the eye lens is held permanently on that target with the help of special muscles. Thanks to this feature, the predator can no longer lose sight of its prey. The mountain animal is moving along the slope. Suddenly, an eagle swoops down and grabs it with its claws. The golden eagle's paws are long and allow it to reach anywhere on the victim's body. With a few strokes of its powerful wings, the bird flings its prey down onto the rocks. The deed is done, and the golden eagle is in for a sumptuous dinner. It seems cruel, but the raptor needs to eat too. Trusting and fearful, chamois are remarkably resilient. With a shot leg, it sometimes rushes for hours across fields and cliffs as if nothing had happened. When badly wounded, it either gets separated from the rest of the herd and escapes to a secluded spot between rocks, permanently licks its wound and soon recovers, or dies in a deep ditch somewhere. The greatest danger to the animals is not a human or an animal of prey, but the terrain itself. Though rock goats are agile and dexterous, they are not immune to falls from rocks, rock falls, and avalanches. Avalanches in winter, mudslides, and rock falls in the rest of the year pose a great threat to the inhabitants of high mountains. They can sweep away even the sturdiest of animals. The unfortunate often find themselves buried under these masses. Avalanches, starvation, and freezing take more lives than the claws and teeth of predators. This little goose has become popular precisely because of its unique appearance. A white-cheeked head that stands out against its black body. It also bears a certain resemblance to a nun because of its mantle-like plumage. The barnacle goose is a member of the duck family and breeds on Arctic islands in the North Atlantic. To protect themselves from predators, barnacle geese build their nests high up on cliffs and steep bluffs near lakes and mountain streams. The nest is a shallow depression on the rocky ground. Hatchlings sit in the nest, but their parents do not feed them. Therefore, they are forced to leave it. The chicks won't be able to fly for another month, but there is a solution, and it's not an easy one. The baby goose hears his parents' voice and jumps off the cliff to reach them. The baby falls, spreading its tiny wings. Hit the cliff, fall, hit it again a few times. There's no chance of saving this little goose. But surprisingly, after such a dizzying flight, the fluffy little thing plucks at its parents as if nothing had happened. Falling on the rocks below, given its low weight, it managed to avoid serious injury. But not all chicks are so lucky. Some chicks die on impact. Only 50% of chicks hatched on these rocks survive the first month. If you're interested, don't forget to like it. Rugged landscapes, violent waterfalls, severe frosts, wild nature. All this is the mysterious land of the snow sheep, the bighorn sheep. The snow sheep, or thistle, or chubbuck, is an inhabitant of the upper belt of mountain ranges, upland areas, and rocky seashores of Northeast Asia and North America. Thick bighorn sheep are adapted to live in a near vertical world of cliffs and gorges with adjacent gentle areas of vegetation. In summer, groups of animals live at an altitude of 1,800 to 2,500 meters. In winter, they move to lower pastures, 800 to 1,500 meters. The snow sheep is a rather large animal of dense and powerful build. Its body is well adapted to the cold, stocky with short legs and tail with small ears. Its thick, fluffy coat is essential for survival during the winter months. All of this helps them to keep as warm as possible for as long as possible. But in the heat, it poses a problem. The long wool that keeps the animals warm in winter becomes coarse and hot. It's time to change it. The fat ram inhales deeply into the cool air through its nostrils, which are riddled with many blood vessels. It cools the blood, which in turn cools the body. From the high cliff, the snow ram watches over life. A secret world lurks in the mountains. Dramatic scenes of life are constantly played out against the magnificent landscape. And what enormous and beautiful horns this male has! They grow throughout his life, but only in summer when vegetation is plentiful. And in winter, when there is little food and one needs to save strength, their horns stop growing. Thus, each year a ring is deposited at the base of the horns, and the number of rings determines the age of a male fathead. The snow lamb is common slow. It does not yet know that a dangerous cougar, a hunter, is watching him from hiding. It prefers to ambush it. The experienced bighorn sheep smells something and begins to walk away unhurriedly. The predator stalks its prey. On the hunt, mountain lions can reach speeds of up to 50 kilometers per hour while chasing their prey. Pumas try to catch up with their prey by leaping over bushes and rock ledges. Their powerful hind legs are larger and more muscular than their front paws, allowing them to leap huge distances. The wildcat can jump up to 7 meters in length and up to 2 meters in height. Its long, powerful tail acts as a counterweight when it jumps. Their cheetah-like flexible backbone helps them move around obstacles and change direction quickly. They don't like to chase their prey and will not chase it for long. The puma stops chasing and the bighorn sheep escapes safely. Towering above the landscape, the mountain peaks are hidden behind the clouds. For most of the year, everything looks bleak. It's very cold and windy. Living conditions are harsh. The sheep travel up and down the slopes day after day, changing places to feed and spend the night. They are very agile and brave on the rocks, but they gallop and jump over them calmly and without hurry. Thoroughbreds do not like haste. In case of danger, nimble sheep immediately hide from predators on rocks where they dare not go. Despite their heavy weight, rams jump onto rocky ledges from a height of 2 to 3 meters. A small calf has broken away from the herd. A puma watches its prey closely from cover. The predator creeps up quietly. The prey doesn't see him until it's too late. A jerk, and the beast begins its chase. It makes long leaps in the hopes of catching up with the heifer, and he succeeds. The cougar pounces on its prey from behind, then drags it into cover. The cougar is so strong and hardy, it can drag a carcass 7 times its own weight for so long. The cougar doesn't finish its catch at once and tries to hide the rest. It will never abandon a half-eaten meal or share it. Pumas are predators by nature. Often they kill more animals than they can eat meat. And even if there are reserves, they continue hunting. These animals are very voracious. When a predator kills, we feel sorry for the victim. But this is not a crime. Pumas must eat to live. It gets its food the only way nature has taught it. In the quest for survival, some animals always pursue others. And it's a matter of luck. The mountain dwellers are unpretentious and hardy. Food and shelter are scarce. Snow rams can feed on lichens and dry grasses, thanks to which these tenacious animals manage to survive in the harsh mountains among bare rocks and poor vegetation. Sheep's digestive system is adapted to make the most of their food. They live on pasture-based forage, contenting themselves with what they can find. Like cows, they have 4 chambered stomachs. When they are not eating, they regurgitate food in the form of gum before swallowing it. This allows them to get more nutrients and water from the feed. So why has nature endowed mountain sheep with such horny beauty? Their massive horns curl around their heads, some as big as a bicycle wheel. Since the horns of these animals can grow up to 14 kilos in weight, imagine the incredibly strong neck muscles they need to keep their heads straight. The weight of the horns is greater than the weight of the bones of the whole body. The bigger the horns, the more important the male. Females have shorter horns and no spiral. These rams settle any dispute by banging their foreheads. The fatheads display the height of their stubbornness, but this is more like a game, and serious fights take place during the breeding season. Males only socialize with females in autumn during the breeding season. The rest of the time, they live separately in bachelor groups. Once a year, during rutting season, they visit a flock of females and fight bitterly for them. In November, the strongest will be chosen to succeed the fatheads. The sound of their blows can be heard at a distance of 1.5 kilometers. The rams can fight for hours, sometimes accelerating to 64 kilometers an hour. But their heads can take the hit. Their massive, double-layered skulls are arranged like beehives. The bones are strong, and the skull and spine are connected by thick tendons that soften the impact. The structure helps protect the brain from injury during combat. They don't suffer concussions. The winner gets to mate with the female. Thus, the strongest and luckiest males manage to reproduce, which allows the species to persist. But when the offspring are given to weakened animals, this weakens the future generations and the survival of the species is unlikely. This is the answer to the question of why a ram needs big and beautiful horns. The powerful horns of the males are designed to attract females and, naturally, to continue the breed. After all, the transmission of genetic material to the next generation is the most important thing for the male. Male snow goats are not so peaceful. Their fights are not limited to the breeding season. They occur throughout the year. On average, they get into a fight every 15 minutes. Snow goats become aggressive and defend their territory even against any other goat. The horns, like two daggers, help these willful animals fight off both predators and other goats. With their sharp horns, they can rip open the belly of any rival. Both male and females have such pointed horns. All animals of this desert mountain region have physically adapted to survive here. Mountain animals have adapted to the thin air. They have bigger lungs and a bigger heart to carry oxygen through their bodies. Nature has thought of everything perfectly. Mountain animals have mechanisms in their bodies that increase the production of red blood cells to help absorb oxygen when blood levels are low. The hormone responsible for this is called erythropoietin, abbreviated to EPO, and is widely known in endurance sports. Every mountaineer knows that mountains do not forgive mistakes. You have to move very slowly on the rocks, take piles of precautions so as, God forbid, you do not crash into an abyss. Only mountain goats and sheep don't care. They ride steep cliffs as if gravitation has no effect on them at all. People who can't do it ask, how? Really, how? These horned men could not circumvent the laws of physics. Well, of course not. The animals simply have special split hooves for climbing. Their peculiarity is that they are not one piece. The strong keratin frame encloses the hoof only on the outside to prevent damage. On the inside, there are soft, rough pads. When an animal lowers its foot takes the shape of the surface on which it rests. This is how goats and rams are glued to mountains. Unrealistically well-developed sense of balance and pumped-up muscles allow the goat to hold the necessary pose accurately. And if a goat realizes that it can't hold on, it instantly pushes off, jumping onto another ledge, and so on until its limbs find a firm foothold. The key to survival in the mountains is to stay on your feet. After all, when you live on such steep peaks, one wrong step is enough to get killed. So never try to replicate what these animals do. Your arms and your legs are a pitiful sight compared to the muscular limbs of ungulates. Even the most advanced climbing equipment can't compare a human to these climbers. On a cliff that climber would spend an hour climbing, a bighorn sheep would take off in a minute. These Alpine goats, who live in northern Italy, are beyond competition. They have taken a fancy to the artificial Cingino Dam, the walls of which are over 30 meters high, and they can climb up it, moving with ease along an almost vertical wall. Looking at these goats defying gravity, you can't believe your eyes. But why? What are they doing at the dam? The walls of a hydroelectric dam are not the most convenient training ground for climbing. There are not many anchor points, the height is decent, the risk of falling off is almost 100%. It turns out that these horny fellows climbed up there to lick, what do you think? Rocks. The fact is that mineral salts protrude on the surface of the dam, and goats come up here just for it. The goats need this material and lick off the salt on the stones, which contain sodium, calcium, iron, and zinc. These are all important elements for the normal functioning of the nerves and muscles, as well as for the bones. This is why these goats climbed this dam. Here's a testament to how well this species has adapted to its environment. Meeting these elusive animals in the wild is no easy task, as these wild spotted cats have chosen to live in the Rocky Mountains of Central and Central Asia. This mysterious and secretive animal is the snow leopard, aka snow leopard or ibis. Why is it snowy? Because it lives in the mountains at 1,500 to 6,000 meters above sea level, where it is surrounded by snowfields, ice tongues, and mountaintops covered with eternal white caps, where it can be very cold and where strong, frosty winds blow. Well, they're also very beautiful. So how do snow leopards survive in such extreme conditions? The snow leopard is a formidable predator and an excellent professional in the field of survival in difficult conditions at high altitudes. Nature has endowed them with many unique features. A small-size head with small rounded ears, wide nostrils which warm cold rarefied air, and a long and very thick luxurious coat with thick undercoat. All this helps to keep warm where it is very cold, up to 50 degrees of frost. And they always have a blanket with them. Nature has gifted a snow leopard with a built-in blanket, a fluffy tail. The magnificent thick tail, the length of which is equal to the body length and reaches 1 meter, performs several useful functions at once. It steers during jumps, helps to balance while moving on rocky edges, serves as a blanket for its owner, and stores fat reserves. Huge padded feet covered in thick warm fur are well adapted to both climbing slippery mountainsides and wading in deep, loose snow, while short, muscular forelegs and a well-developed chest help keep balance and climbing even steep cliffs with ease. Muscles of its legs are very strong. The leopard jumps over wide gorges with ease. Several rocky terrain that snow leopards call home make them excellent jumpers. In a single jump, they can cleverly overcome a height of 2.5 to 3 meters. But in the mountains, there is a constant danger, the force of gravity. When living on such steep slopes, one wrong step is enough to get killed. The snow leopard walks without fear along rock edges above the precipice. At some point, he makes a careless move and plunges into the abyss. It flies, hitting the rocks and tumbling. There's no chance of escape. He's going to die. But here we see this flyer walking calmly along the bottom of the gorge as if he'd never fallen from a great height. Snow leopards are masters of disguise. They are rightly called ghost cats. Yellowish-gray fur with black markings almost merges with surrounding rocky cliffs and perfectly camouflages it from enemies and victims alike. So if you find yourself in the mountains, look around. Perhaps an invisible snow leopard is lurking somewhere nearby. He leads a crepuscular life, dwelling in caves or crevices in the rocks. In these shelters, he spends daylight hours, and at twilight or in the morning at dawn, he goes hunting. He walks boldly and has no enemies among the beasts. The ibis takes its position silently. He has chosen a young goat for the attack, as it is easier to catch. The perilous chase down the slope begins. On steep slopes, no other hunter except the snow leopard can catch such agile prey. The snow leopard manages to catch and capture the animal. There's no escape for the goat. She tries furiously to escape the leopard's teeth. She succeeds, and the animal jumps into the mountain river. This saves her life. The predator did not pursue the fugitive. He only glanced at her and walked away with nothing. If the dinner is not immediately caught, the ibis will not usually chase after the missed chance. Ibis are true predators and are not at all embarrassed by the large size of their prey, often 3 times larger than their own. A snow leopard runs into a herd of bulls. The yaks are quietly nibbling on the grass. Blending in with its surroundings, the beast cautiously and slowly creeps up on its prey. The yaks have smelled an enemy, but can't see where the danger is coming from. The leopard has chosen its prey, a straggling calf. When the distance between them has been reduced to a few tens of meters, he makes a swift dash, chases it, and rolls it to the ground. The herd scatters. Risking her life, the calf's mother rushes to her mother's defense. The predator does not retreat, but the mother rushes into battle again, trying to drive it away using her horns. The help of another yak and the mother's persistence sets the little one free. A miraculous rescue. The annoyed leopard walks away. It is the horns and hooves that enable many mountain animals, the so-called cloven-hooved ones, to survive. The horns are an important defensive weapon against predators and an effective means of asserting dominance over the herd. Today, snow leopards are in trouble. One of the most exotic and poorly studied members of the big cat group is on the verge of extinction for many reasons, such as a decrease in food for predators, wild ungulates, and climate change due to poaching. These beautiful animals are mercilessly wiped out because of their beautiful fur, and only humans can help them. Conditions in the mountains are harsh, so highland birds differ from their relatives living in forests and grasslands. They have larger bodies to withstand the force of the wind, thicker feathers to protect them from cold winds. Their eating habits follow a meager diet, foraging amongst rocks and sparse vegetation. Nothing goes to waste here. This proud inhabitant of the mountains of Africa, Asia, and Europe favors an already clean skeleton, as bones, and preferably large bones, make up 85% of this strange raptor's diet. Bearded vulture is a mountain bird not afraid of the highest inaccessible peaks and ridges. A real giant weighing up to 7.5 kilograms with a wingspan of 3 meters. Such dimensions allow the bird to dash across mountain peaks. The bird has even been seen over the Himalayas at an altitude of 7,600 meters. The warthog lives above all other mountain birds, sticking to the area of eternal snows and mountains covered by glaciers. Sitting somewhere on a rocky ledge, he only needs to rush down with his wings unfolded to be picked up by the slightest breeze and to float effortlessly in the ocean of air without moving them. A bearded eagle is not an eagle. A bearded vulture is a vulture, a scavenger. The whole appearance of the bearded vulture is very imposing. The beak is hooked, powerful, and strong, and under the beak there is a characteristic goatee beard of a bundle of hard feathers, hence the name bearded vulture. Its paws are as if panted almost to the toes. Another name, lamb chop, is a misnomer, as the lamb chop does not eat sheep. It feeds on carrion. He eats marrow with pleasure and won't refuse pieces of meat and skin saved on a skeleton. He also swallows a bone itself, for example, a whole mutton rib, without gulping. Adult birds, with difficulty, but swallow separate vertebrae and even whole joints, consisting of 3 to 4 vertebrae from skeleton of adult sheep or goat. And all this is easily digested in the warthog's stomach. If a big and especially tough bone is found, the warthog takes it up into the sky and from a height of 30 to 100 meters, throws it onto a favorite rock until the bone splits into pieces that are ready to swallow. Mainly feeding on carrion, warthogs serve in the wild as sanitation workers. Humans have not evolved by climbing mountainsides, but many animals have succeeded. They have adapted to the harsh life of the mountains because they are safe here. It is a protection from predators created by nature itself. If you've been interested, subscribe to our channel and don't forget to give us your likes. Stay tuned for more of our content.